It ties into what we're covering here, and what I believe we're covering is introspection, knowing yourself. And if you don't know yourself, how on earth can you ever be successful? One must be aware, like Clint Eastwood, the man of no name. A man must know his limitation, and you can translate that, paraphrase that to women as well. What drives you and I know what drives me, but do you know what drives you? If you know what drives you, what your intrinsic motivation is, according to Daniel H. Pink, then you can reach for the stars. If you don't know what drives you, then normality and mediocrity await. So know what makes you feel successful, because if you can feel it, then you can do it. As I listened to a Michael Jackson, the singer, interview, he says, once upon a time, I don't sing what I don't mean. So translate that, paraphrase that as to software development. If you have that pride, and then you will drive quality, and you know what success is, and no other engineer or other person can deflect that or take that away from you. That's why I encourage young people to discover themselves. And the opposite to that is to know what makes you feel unworthy. If you know what makes you feel bad, then you can certainly avoid it in the future. So do you know you? It's okay, what drives success? And I call this the technical stuff, and I sigh for this because obviously there are other videos out there that will tell you to learn more programming languages, to learn one programming language such as Java, and stick with it for a number of years. And that's all very good. But in the 21st century, that meaning has, that advice is taboo almost, because if you're a full stack developer, you know that you're learning JavaScript, HTML, and CSS3, and also Java to make a website. I would encourage you to read blogs, articles, watch and buy video online courses like you have now. Importantly, improve your communication and empathetic skills. This is the 21st century, especially. Get involved in technical challenges in your leisure and also at work. Dive deeper, but not too deep so it overwhelms you, but just at the right level. And I'll come to organic learning in a second. So attend user groups, meetups, and post-COVID there will be a day when we can go back to technical conferences. It's harder now in a state of lockdown with this coronavirus to attend user group and meetups in person. We can do it virtually. So I would advise webinars and free online conferences. Start an open source project and develop and learn to do things yourself if you really want to improve yourself as a software developer. Welcome back. So in this section, the most critical important section is about you and control. You have to take control of your career in order to have a career. And this is a universal zeroth law in life. Realize that you have the control to determine what your future actions are and what your behavior is. To a large extent, we are independent on this world. It doesn't matter what sovereign nation or we are and where we live on earth. We have our own mind, our body and soul. So take control to determine your career path, and how else can you be successful? And I was inspired. I had this intrinsic motivation, and it was part of my core being, because I was always curious. I always had a kind of passion for art, illustration. And passion is one of these overloaded words in IT. When they were trying to hire a high quality engineer, designer or architect, they're always going on about passion. But more important is that computing seemed to have this wisdom for me, because it was about numbers and maths and logic. There didn't seem to be in IT at the time any racism or prejudice. And I thought, wow, this is something I can do. That was the wisdom. Pride came much later, when I started to get good at writing code, and people thought, oh, my code and my games, primitive computer games, were really good. But in that, I had built the courage to write even more software. And I learned other things along the way, to realize that there were other people who were not as good as I was. So I behaved myself. I had empathy. I don't think I had much charm as a kid, but other people do. But the most important thing was drive, and that was my state identity and behavior.